Hi, I'm Dave Barnes.
And I'm John McLaughlin.
And welcome to Dadville.
Dadville is a podcast where we talk about life, love, and the pursuit of awesome dadding.
It's funny thoughts and deep talks.
So please, enjoy your time here in Dadville and enjoy this episode with...
Barrett Ward.
Barrett, are you so excited right now?
I
hope that you're as excited as I am nervous.
Yeah, I mean, we have a 50-50 shot of this going well or terribly.
That's higher. Honestly,
That's higher than I thought.
You were thinking, I don't think there's a real middle ground in how this could go.
It's either going to go swimmingly well. Give me a high five.
High five.
It's good to see you.
Good to see you, bro. Good to see you.
Folks, this is I think this is a monumental moment for us at Dadville because Barrett is one of mine and John's closest friends. And so there's going to be a lot of discipline we have to have today because it's probably going to be about a 5-hour interview. And I want you to be are you okay with that?
Perfect. Yeah, I'm good.
You've said
As long
You've
as you
set
got
aside
my
the rest of the week.
As long as you got my writer. Did you guys get my writer?
Yes, we did.
Like the person who writes for you?
I wanted Derek Jeter here.
In spirit, he is here.
Yeah.
He's a little bit of everywhere.
He's the captain.
He is El Capitano.
I'm really proud that I actually know who that is.
I was going to say, John's still being in this conversation.
Who is it, John? Prove
He's
that
the
out.
guy that played the baseball.
He is the guy that played baseball. You know what's funny? Really small aside. That documentary came on. We were at a restaurant the other night with the kids, and it was on ESPN in the background. I forgot how many people played on the Yankees, for a year or two. Like Wade Boggs, Tim Raines. There were all these players that I was like, no, those guys didn't play for the Yankees, but they played for a year during one of their championship seasons, and then we're gone again.
Money will get you whatever you want
Literally.
in life, Dave.
Thank you, guys. That was Barrett
go.
Ward. We hope that's your takeaway
There's
from
a
Barrett.
little bit of wisdom there.
And that's
for
from
you.
a guy who started 2 different nonprofits, everybody. So you heard him, and that is his takeaway.
I am rethinking
He
everything
learned those lessons
as
twice.
of this morning.
You know, you know what's funny is you actually have a brag sheet. I don't know that you knew this.
I doubt it.
You and I texted about this last night, and you were like, there's nothing to say about me.
If you Google Barrett Ward, a bodybuilder comes up.
Well, that feels right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It feels really right. But you actually have a brag sheet, and I'm going to read it. And this is us honoring you.
Oh.
Okay.
This was in my writer. I wanted you to brag on me.
Yes. And Derek Jeter, in his spirit, will celebrate this with us. Okay. Founder and CEO of Able, which is a lifestyle fashion company whose mission is to end generational poverty. Started the company in 2010 after he and his wife moved to Ethiopia. There's more, Barrett. Able launched with only 3 Ethiopian women making scarves. It is crazy to think about that. Isn't that nuts? After a PSA by actress Minka Kelly, they sold over 4,000 scarves in 2 months. That is amazing. Before starting Able, Lexus Barrett worked as a project coordinator for African leadership and founded Mocha Club, which if anybody has seen me or John or Wirtz or a bevy of other artists, you've heard us talk about Mocha Club live from stage, which raises money to help equip local African leaders to develop stronger communities. By the time he left Mocha Club, it had more than 10,000 contributors. That's amazing. This is by far my favorite part, though.
Oh, boy.
Because it's just...
Can we read this together?
Yes,
unison?
here we go.
Ready?
3, 2, 1. Won the GQ Leader Award. GQ, folks.
GQ.
Didn't you meet Bono there?
I got a skinny tan. No, I met Bono in Ethiopia.
Wait, I didn't know that.
Dave, that's why we're here today. There's so much to unpack.
Wait, I thought the story was
the one campaign came to visit our work in Ethiopia.
Oh, okay. With him.
The whole board was there having a board meeting, and so they all came by, and then we went to a party that night. And
No way.
Yeah,
Wait, that board had to be pretty
I
stacked,
did not
though,
know
right?
this story.
It's pretty stacked.
Did you know the rest of the board? Or at least who they were?
I knew who they were. A
'Cause it
lot
had
of
to be
people in
like-
the space of NGO work
right.
and a few governmental people. Bono has the ability to attract people.
Just FYI.
Back to money makes all the difference.
Wait, tell me
And good music.
Tell me about that. So you met him.
No, I mean, it was like,
okay.
Looking across the room, walking closely, and then a guy put me in a chokehold, and I passed out. And then Bono was waking me up, splashing water in my face. No, I just kind of waved at him, but to be in the same room with him in a small group was pretty spectacular.
But I mean, they're there to see y'all's work, though. It's not like you're just another guy in a crowd at a thing with him. I mean, obviously, they were there to see what you guys were doing. So it's not like, you know what I'm saying? So obviously there was.
I mean, they had a board meeting in Addis, but if we want to push the narrative that they were just there to see me.
No, I'm saying for that.
We can clip that.
Why do you think they scheduled the board meeting in Addis
That's
Ababa?
right, just to see me.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it is the kind of work that they wanted to see. They believe in charity, but they also wanted to see work that was redemptive and was creating jobs for women.
Yeah.
And so that's why they came by.
Yeah. So something we always love to ask is, like, after hearing that, which I can't wait to hear your answer to this, but like, what would 17 to like even 20-year-old Barrett think if I said, "Hey, I'm from the future. I'm going to read to you like what your life is like in the next."
That's funny.
Like how would he respond to that?
Well, I feel like we have a theme here, and 17 to 21-year-old Barrett would have said, "But how much money does he have? How much money did he get from that GQ Leader Award?"
Yeah.
Because I grew up in Carmel, Indiana, right down the road from you, Johnny.
Yeah.
And that was it, man. I lived in an atmosphere that really made me think that
Money was
it was all going to be money.
Wow.
Yeah.
For context, for the listener who isn't familiar with Carmel, Indiana, it would be. Can I say it's the Beverly Hills of Indiana?
Yeah.
Is it really, truthfully?
Yeah, it's like it's a very like uppity sort of.
I didn't know that.
Where all the football players live. It is still Indiana.
Oh, for the Colts.
For the Colts.
What were you supposed to say to that question, by the way? Like, for the Colts? No, Dave, just football players move there.
Just general football players.
Just like amateur football players. It's full of amateur football players.
We did say it was the Beverly Hills of Indiana.
Get somebody to find, please.
Not actually Beverly Hills.
What is an amateur football player?
Just guys getting after it after work.
Yeah. Is that their slogan?
Guys getting after it after work.
Oh, man.
That's going to attract an interesting
Be
clientele.
weary of jumping on board any train where that's the slogan.
Wait, so Barrett, this is funny because as well as I know you, I didn't know that one, that area is a little more affluent than others, but two, that was already being imprinted in your brain that young. That actually, I'm not kidding, knowing you as well as I have for as long as I have.
Yeah, that it was that imprinted at a young age. I mean, that was all my 20s, right? I kind of had one of those cataclysmic moments when I was 30 years old, became a Christian.
Yeah.
Believed in something outside of because actually I was reading in the Bible, the Bible, Matthew 25.
What page?
It talks about 482. And it was Matthew 2 Corinthians.
Uh-huh.
Love that section.
And one of the things that it talked about is when you do things for man, like if you give in front of man or pray in front of man, and do all those things, then you do it. Then your rewards are paid in full. But if you do it behind closed doors, and we can all kind of sense that out. It doesn't have to be scripture to make clear a thought that if you're doing everything in front of men, then maybe your priorities are a little bit off.
Right.
And when I read that, I remember thinking to myself, is there any other reason to do things than for the praise of man? It was a monumental thought. And that really was the beginning of a journey of like leaving that career and moving into nonprofit.
So when you were, because you worked for Southwestern, selling books door to door, which people listening to this that are our age are like, dude, I remember that. Either people that did that or companies that did that, because it was like a hustle. It
was a hustle.
It still blows my mind though that you did it and that people are still doing it.
It is easily the hardest job that I ever did.
Yeah, for real.
I mean, easily. But when I, for 12 weeks, I went out and sold books door to door, 80 hours a week. I make
just
as a
think
junior
about that
in
for a
college.
second.
Well, this is what's crazy.
Walking door to door.
Yeah.
Knocking on people's doors, trying to sell them books.
You guys,
John, you would have been my number one buyer. You are.
Hey, I would have.
Barrett
Barrett
has done like a scan of you, and he's like, I know every weakness. I know exactly. And the minute those two girls popped up in the background behind you in the door, Barrett's like,
it's over.
Deal is done.
That was the key. That was the key line. Do you love your children? No, it was actually a really good job. I mean, I learned a lot about myself during those times. I was a marshmallow kid coming out of Carmel. Had a pretty easy existence up until that point. So all of a sudden, having people tell me, I'm not interested in you or what you're doing.
Yeah.
It was definitely a feeling
sobering.
of, I don't know. Hold on. I'm Barrett. From Carmel. I'm from Carmel. There's a lot of amateur football players that live around me. Do you know me?
Oh, my God.
You should have invited me in by now.
Parents
I should
have
be
always
drinking a
loved you.
lemonade.
They would over there. You just walk in. Thank you so
Parents
much.
have always loved me growing up. What's wrong with you?
So did you? But you did that numerous summers. But so again, I think this is so interesting retrospectively. You did because you are such a conversational. Like you are one of the most gifted sort of like communicators that I know. Like you are so good at being with people. You're such a good conversationalist. I'm like, I can't imagine. I think I had a part of me that always assumed you did that job because yes, obviously like so you didn't finish your thought. How much did you make? Now this is also how many years ago? 25 years ago?
It was that was 25 years ago.
Longer maybe.
Yeah, actually, it's 30 years ago.
Yeah,
I'm 50.
So, but how much did you? What was the most you made?
I mean, when I was a
summer?
junior in college, I made $43,000 in a summer doing that.
In 12 weeks.
In 12 weeks, isn't that ridiculous?
That's crazy, but also
it ain't
again,
the average.
You made that selling books door to door.
Yeah. So, but
that blows my mind.
I think I just thought, I know Barrett. I bet he did that one because it's sort of, it's a little bit of like your sweet spot. Like you're really good with people. You're good at selling things. And it was kind of an adventure, and sure, he made some money. But I guess, like, if we're tracing it more backwards, you're saying, like, that little decade, that 20 to 30 is you going, I got to get that cash. I got to get paid.
So I loved the making of the money. But the truth of it is, it really was a mindset of the more that I accumulate, the more I'm hitting my goals, and the way to be happy in life is hitting your goals.
Gotcha.
Right.
Gotcha.
And by the time I was 30, what I realized was a couple of things. Number one, I wasn't happy. It wasn't making me happier. It wasn't filling in all the gaps that I wanted filled in.
Because you were progressing in your job. I mean, you were.
Yeah, I had grown in my career.
Yeah.
I was a sales manager, all those things. But that pursuit never led to a depth of happiness. The other thing was, and I talk to this to young people a lot, is
did you just say
because
the young people
a lot these days.
Oh boy,
these days. All you have to add to that comment is
these days. But I will tell them, just because you're good at something, that doesn't mean that's your calling or what you should be doing. You can be good at more than one thing. And really my mindset, as juvenile as it sounds right now, was I'm doing financially very well, and I'm very good at this.
Yeah.
Regardless of the fact that I cry every day while I'm doing it, this must be my calling.
What a fatalistic sort of
I know, dude.
ideology.
Looking back on it, feels like a different person because it was. But that was the foolish pursuit of the 20s.
But there was a underlying feeling of lack of satisfaction, like a very real sense of like this is not doing it.
Yeah, and I don't know what will.
And you were feeling that build.
Yeah.
In your 20s.
Yeah, and then I heard that message. The message, as crazy, as crazy and radical as the thought was to me, is, you got some things wrong with you, but you're still loved anyways. That thought to me was not comprehensible because I think inherently I believe the exact opposite, that because of my failings, this is the distance between someone being able to love me or not.
Wow.
And I have to make up that distance. And that kind of message flipped that on its ear, right?
Johnny.
Hey, Dave.
Hey, what's up? So listen.
I was just going straight.
No, I know.
Yeah.
You're the foil.
You fly.
That.
I'll stay on the ground.
Thank you for that. I know you can tell it because we talked about it. Summer's almost over.
Yeah.
Kids are getting ready. They're getting ready to go back to school, doing stretches, doing wind sprints in the yard.
Yeah.
Out of curiosity, how did you keep them busy over the summer?
It was tough, Dave. I'm going to be honest with you.
Yep.
We booked the camps.
Yep.
The outdoor camps, the indoor camps.
Yep.
But what are they going to do for the other 10 weeks out of the summer?
Can I tell you?
Please.
That's exactly why I really dig OutSchool. OutSchool offers the widest variety of classes so kids are free to learn about anything they can imagine, John. From video game design and entrepreneurship, that's a big word, to freestyle dancing, which was my life in middle school, and magic lessons.
So if you were to teach an OutSchool class, what would you say it would be?
Probably something about like soccer appreciation or
oh my gosh,
a really deep dive, pun intended, on yacht rock.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd go for something on the intricacies of latte art.
Every
obviously.
post, I'm glued, John. OutSchool provides a learning environment that's fun, friendly, and flexible so kids can connect with teachers and kids around the world through their shared passions, giving your child a whole community of new friends.
OutSchool will have your kids loving to learn and having fun doing it. That's key, right?
It is.
Head over to outschool.com/Dadville and use the code Dadville to learn all about OutSchool's summer programs and save $15, not 10 people, not 12.
Nope.
$15 on your child's first class.
That's outschool.com/Dadville to save $15 on your child's first class. Outschool.com/Dadville, code Dadville. I do remember, this is right about when I was meeting you, which was crazy to watch because I don't know that I have seen in my life, and I know there's been much more sort of significant conversion moments for people, but for me, watching yours was so cataclysmic. I mean, you literally, it was like, if people ever doubt the potency of what a conversion is, I mean, to see you go from, because I knew a little bit of you toward the end, where it was like, yeah, we joke and call you Lexus Barrett, but you had this really cool Lexus, and I remember like being out with you, and you had no problem spending money. Like you were like, "Let's do it. We're eating at this place. What you need? I'm going." I remember we were at the beach, and you went shopping for a watch or a wallet or something. And we
went shopping together, yeah.
And you were just, and I was like, "Man, this guy's rolling deep."
This is fun. And then within a year, I'm collecting from Las Palmas everybody's plates to get the leftovers.
Literally, because you
which is the great part of Mexican food.
That's true.
Let's be honest.
Like, if you're in a bad spot, you go to people, they fill up on chips. You have some more chips.
Yeah. But I mean, you very willingly, and that's, I think, the thing that's so compelling about the story is that you went from like, you had this huge heart change where you're like, oh, money is not going to be the thing that makes me happy. And then you quit your job. You start giving. I remember you sold your car. You downsized your car so that it was just like,
I had a gold station wagon.
I loved that car.
Oldsmobile.
By the way. I loved that car.
Wait, you went from the Lexus to a gold station wagon?
Yeah, but it was gold.
You're like, I'll go to a station wagon. It has to be gold.
There has to be a remnant of my old life.
Yeah.
And just a reminder of what could have been.
I remember driving down Hillsborough Road soon after I got that car. And I was a single guy. I saw some ladies walking down the sidewalk, and I kind of looked over at them and smiled. I think in my mind I was still in the bucket seat of my Lexus, and they gave me a look like, no, sir.
They were like, kidnapper.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, at this time, are you driving the biggest
wagon.
station wagon
ever seen?
Yeah, we would have races late at night until
oh my gosh. Dave used to drive this. It was a Buick Roadmaster. I know this because my mom had the same car, yeah. But hers wasn't a station wagon. But Dave's was wood paneled on the side.
Yeah, that's right.
So cool.
It was a great.
I would drive that car.
0 to 60 in 4 minutes.
Yeah. Well, that's why I felt so much simpatico with you, because I was like, Barrett has come.
Now we're doing it.
Barrett is with me now.
Yeah,
he is. So
he has fallen so far.
So when you do,
I have company now,
or has risen spiritually,
or has risen.
So when you have this moment, which again was just fascinating to watch, I can't remember, did you know in that moment what you wanted to do next vocationally? And how did you work that out? Because you're going from a ideology that is very established, like get paid.
Yeah, that's a good question. So I did leave the job knowing that I wanted to start traveling around the world a little bit and seeing if there's ways that I could.
Because you had done a mission trip, right?
So I went on a mission trip with West End Community Church here in Nashville, and Mark Wiggins was on that trip.
Yep.
When I was there, I loved it, and there was definitely ways to help, but it didn't feel like what I was supposed to do.
Yeah.
And on the flight back, Mark Wiggins said to me, "Have you ever thought about traveling to Africa?" And I said, No, but it really did feel like a light bulb. And the long story short is I ended up taking a trip with African Leadership to go there for a couple of months. And when I was there, it immediately felt this deep spiritual home. Like, this is where I'm supposed to be.
Wow.
You know.
Where was the first place that you went?
Ethiopia, ironically.
Oh, really?
I went to Kenya, Ethiopia.
You're like, I hear that Bono goes to Ethiopia sometimes. Let's start there.
Didn't see him that time.
Yeah.
But I have met him. I don't know.
It's a big country, so yeah.
It's a big country.
I can't imagine you just walk around going, no, okay.
No,
it's coffee shop.
Let's try the next place.
I went to all the nicest places.
Where do rock stars hang out in Addis Ababa?
So then I went to Zimbabwe and South Africa, and
you were with them the whole time. Were you traveling with somebody?
No, just traveling around. I was connected to people in those.
Oh, you would go see
places.
Okay.
But you're traveling by yourself.
I was traveling by myself mostly, and then stayed in South Africa for a month. It's beautiful there. Have you been to South Africa?
I actually haven't been.
I know, obviously I've taken you
Ethiopia is the only country I've been to in Africa. So as you're traveling by yourself during that time, what are you telling yourself that this trip is?
I mean, it is a good question. I have to think back to it. I think my goal, once I was there, I started seeing getting involved with women and children is something that I could get excited about.
So it was that specific, like those two things.
That became the clear trajectory over time. It wasn't like a real specific thought in my head, but when I was asked what I wanted to do, I'm always stumbling into the next thing. I didn't intend Mocha Club. I didn't intend Able. And I didn't intend necessarily, like, my goal is to work with women and children for my life. But when I went back to the United States, Larry asked me, what do you want to do?
The guy who ran
African Leadership said, what do you want to do? I said, I'd love to be in projects, whatever I could do to work in projects.
Was that because when you were there, did y'all speak that, like you go visit somebody and they'd say, let me tell you what we need here or what we're working on?
Yeah.
So it's kind of project based, like, right?
Yeah. I spent a month at an orphanage in South Africa and just being amongst that culture was invigorating to me as well.
Or Khayelitsha, I mean.
Khayelitsha.
Yeah.
Wow, Dave.
Come on, man. Stop
driving around.
Stop driving around.
But yeah, so when I got back, I knew that's what I wanted to go into.
With Timothy?
What's that?
Was Timothy running that? Or no, he was doing his church still.
No, that was the man from Korea. Do you remember him?
Yes.
And when I was leaving.
Yes. God, that guy
Young was his name.
Young, yeah.
When I was leaving, I love this guy because I was looking for, the most clear spiritual sign of what I was supposed to be doing with my life. And, I dated a girl once just because we had the same cactus on our windowsill. So I don't know if I'm good at interpreting, what God's will is in my life.
Wait.
Wait, hold on. Yeah, that's true. I see. She had the same cactus. I was like, I so think we're supposed to be together, bro.
I would love to know.
She was also the woman that made me start thinking about going to church. I mean,
it works.
Liz,
but I just love that it wasn't like a beautiful. It was a cactus, which has to have some warning.
Yeah, but there's also like, hey, this is going to be a rocky road.
But there's water in there.
There is water.
But there's
a
water.
Just enough to keep it alive.
So I sat down with Kim and I asked him. I said,
with
young Kim, I said, how do you make a big decision in your life? I'm looking for the sign. How do I hear the sign? And he said, you know what? I choose three things. If I think all of them are from, God, A, B, and C, A, and I don't know which one he wants me to do, maybe I'll choose A. Maybe I'll get to heaven someday, and God will say, you know what? I really wanted you to do B, but A was pretty good too because it was also for me. And so that kind of took some of the pressure off having to land on this perfect place and instead just to get in the game.
Yeah.
Just be a part of service.
So did you, I can't remember this either. Did you start Mocha Club quickly there or were you doing projects and then eventually?
Well, I was doing projects and trying to hold fundraisers too. And, put about 6 months of work into this one fundraiser and raised $38,000. And was like, man, there's got to be a better way to do this.
You used to make that in 12 weeks.
You're like,
right.
Oh, I know how I'll do it. I'll go sell some books.
Yeah.
For a summer.
Oh, man. There's no way I was going to get back into that. So that's when Mocha Club came up. We actually took a group of people. Alan Perry was on that trip. A few friends were on that trip, and we went to Kenya, and we went out to the Masai Mara, and we did all that, and we traveled. But one of the biggest things I heard from them was, man, I don't feel like I can make a difference. You know, they felt like anything that they would do would be a brick in the Grand Canyon. And, you know, the truth of it was they also felt like the things that they could contribute to, like maybe Compassion at the time or $38 a month, was beyond their financial bandwidth. And so we started Mocha Club as a concept. The genius, to show you the level of genius and strategy I had behind it, we started it by asking people to fax us their credit card numbers, and that I would start charging it on a monthly basis, $10 a month. And a couple people did do that.
Yeah, I'm sure.
They were my mom and your mom.
She loves a fax.
But no, so the idea was, we called it the cost of 2 mochas, or the Mocha Club, the cost of 2 mochas a month. And the idea is that, you know, we could show people, hey, look, for $7 a month, you actually can have an impact. You can give clean water at that point. You could give clean water to 7 people for a year for $7. Or you could put 2 children in school in a semester in Zimbabwe for $7. So that message resonated. I think the other thing that we did was, I had seen this new thing that you were very popular on called MySpace, and thought to myself, well, this is never going to die.
Yeah.
This is perfect.
This is it.
So we built an online community where people could invite their friends, and that kind of went viral. And of course, you know, I'm kind of skipping some steps here, because the real step of it is you and I and Matt Wirt sitting in my front living room over on Gilmore. Do you remember that? And we were sitting there talking about, well, what could we do with it? What if we were to try to take this faxing website and do something different with it?
I'm picturing the 3 of you guys just sitting around, like sitting on the floor around the fax machine, just waiting for
just like, come on,
another fax.
Your turn to pray.
Checking the connection. Like,
Matt, you pray this time.
But actually, Wirtz was like, well, what if we take it on the road? And Dave was like, yeah, let's do it. And before we knew it, we were on the road in Ohio running out of gas. But there's a long distance between gas stations in Ohio.
Yeah, if you're
that's kind of their thing.
But then you guys started talking about it from stage, and that's where it really blew up. And over the years,
anyone
it raised millions
who was
of dollars.
at a Dave Barnes or Matt Wirtz show between, I don't know, 2004 and 2009, 10, whatever.
That's about right.
Yeah. I did a tour. I mean, Dave, you and I have played lots of shows together, but I did this one tour with Wirtz in 2007. And it was like the longest tour ever. It was like 63 shows or something like that. And he would do the Mocha Club talk every night. And totally, I mean, that guy, like, it was like, that was the most important thing to him about each show, was giving the Mocha Club talk.
I'll never forget, like, I think maybe even you came to the show, Barrett. And there were, like, it got to where I would do it for 15 minutes. Sometimes.
Yeah.
And, like, I cried numerous nights because, like, I'd been 3 times with you, and, like, I knew these people. Like, some of these people have become my friends.
Yeah.
Who lived in Africa, and we're going through this stuff. And it's like, you get up there and start talking about it, and all of a sudden you're thinking about these kids and it's like, it gets overwhelming. And I will never forget. I remember, like, after one of those, you kind of sat down and you're like, man, so powerful. I'm like, thank you. You're like, I do feel like if maybe it's about 1/3 as long and maybe just less emotionally charged, it might be more powerful. And then, like,
I remember. How did you take that?
Oh, I was like, I know you're right. I knew immediately. It was like a little heartbreaking, but I could feel like Annie, Detrey, all of the people in my world, my manager, Annie, my wife, were like, yeah, I think he's got a good point.
But it's awesome how committed you were to it.
Yeah, but those things, just like one night it'd be like 6 minutes, 6.5 minutes, next night 7, and I could just feel the band was like, okay, I feel like you could probably say it just as powerfully, and then we're back into the set, and I would just see fans like, freaking hey, man, we're gonna sign up.
Yeah,
we're in.
Get it? If you'll just stop.
We are in.
All sign up within 7 minutes.
That was such a it was a cool
sweet time.
You know
we
what?
built something together.
Something that was so cool to me about that. This happened not a lot, maybe 2 or 3 times, but every time it was so powerful. I'll never forget one night. I don't know if it was New York. I don't know where I was, but I played a show, maybe Chicago actually. Now I'm thinking about it. Get done, and one of the security guys who's watching the door comes over to me after. He's like, "Hey man," and I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "That was really cool, what you did," and I was like, "Oh, thanks, man." He's like, "You just don't see that a lot." And I was like,
that's right. He's working it every night.
Yeah. And I just thought how cool, you'd have these moments where people would like, and then what's crazy now is, not a ton, but probably a handful of people who went into nonprofit work because of those shows, just because
absolutely
Matt and I or Lady A or whoever was doing that at the time, we're talking about those and kind of lit a fire like in you where you kind of, people would go, or they'd intern for Mocha Club and African Leadership,
Yeah.
That was what was so crazy. I mean, people would just be at a show and go, hey, I need something to do this summer. I'm going to live in Nashville for, back when it was affordable.
So the days of innocence, right? I mean, it's when we were single and we were going after, things that we wanted to do with our time before we loaded up with Dadville.
So what got you? So you marry Rachel and y'all live in Addis Ababa in Ethiopia for a year, right?
Yeah, she got a job offer actually to run an agency, if you remember.
Right.
So I was running Mocha Club from the States.
That's right.
And she said, I got a job offer. It's while we were engaged.
Because she was doing adoption.
She was doing adoption. It's while we were engaged. She got a job offer to run an agency in Ethiopia. And she said, I think we can do this. Let's do this. My response was, hell no. We're not going to Ethiopia at the beginning of our marriage. And
I mean, y'all were brand spanking new.
Brand spanking new. And we even sat down with our pastor, and he told us, he and his wife kind of warned against it. They were saying, look, at the beginning of your marriage, this is a pretty, it's a lot. That's right. It's a lot to put into it. But we kind of stepped away from that feeling like, okay, hold on. This is how this is supposed to work. We're supposed to take wisdom from people, but we're supposed to try to learn to work through something together and also somehow try to get a signal from God as to whether this is the right path for us. And over time, we definitely landed on the fact that this is what we're supposed to do. And
you're like, let's go over there. If I see one cactus, we'll move.
Or if we meet Bono, and that's still a possibility.
The fear for us in moving was we need to know that this is what we're definitely supposed to be doing. Because if we get there and 2 months in, we're like, oh gosh, this is terrible. This is not what we expected.
Right.
We needed to feel solidly that God was behind us on this. Right. Yeah. And in fact, the first trip, so we went there to set up and Rachel basically cried the whole time we were there.
Oh, wow.
But because we felt like we were certain this is where we're supposed to be, she was able to see through that and know that this is going to be a part of the process. And by the end of it, well, not even by the end of it, but within a couple of months, we loved living there.
That's what I remember.
Best.
I just remember every time we talked or emailed or whatever, you guys, it just felt like
they so happy there. Happy. Yeah, we loved it. In fact, we didn't want to move back, but we had to because our visas ran out.
Well, I just want to ask as a side note, because earlier this year we were in Atlanta together, and there was a woman at a restaurant who was Ethiopian, and I forget how you could tell that she was Ethiopian, but you and Rachel just like were so excited, and you talked to her, and there was like, you told her where you lived in Addis, and she was like, I know that street.
Yeah, we were talking about the streets and the
you have such a affinity for the Ethiopian culture. And
the people are amazing.
Yeah, like what is it about?
Well, Ethiopia has never been colonized, and so it really maintained its culture. It's one of the few countries that had not, and it really, fact check on that, but I'm pretty sure that's right. And it's one of the few countries because of that really maintained its own culture. I mean, it's the first country named in the Bible. It's this massive, rich history, and there is a look in Ethiopia that you can kind of tell. But the people there are amazing. Like the guys, the taxi cabs would come to, can you imagine this? A taxi cab would come and pick up kids to take them to the hospital. But inevitably the guy would always get out of the taxi and start playing with the kids. Right. And that is just their culture. They value children deeply as a culture. So you would go to a restaurant and your kids could run around a restaurant You could go to the nicest restaurant in town and kids are running around because that's their culture.
Wow.
Whereas, they're running up to tables and dates and people are playing with the kids. Could you imagine that scene in the States?
Yeah.
What are these kids doing here? So,
Right.
Well, did you think of Abel in that first stint there?
When we lived there for a year, about a year and a half total, because we went back for about a half a year after that in total.
I forgot about that, yeah.
But it was living in Ethiopia so I had never seen the commercial sex industry, so up close and personal. Speaking of those roads you were just talking about,
I was going to say
that. Go down Victory Road. Go ahead.
Well, go, because I remember y'all lived like sort of close to that area, right?
Well, it's not like the United States where the poor are intentionally separated from the rich in city planning and everything like that. So it's everywhere.
Wow.
Poverty and everybody is intermingled, which is good. That's one of the things I loved about it. It made you feel rooted and not just being the 1%. But what we would see and what I came to understand is those girls that were sitting on the side of the road and waving at us constantly were actually either women in the commercial sex industry or they were sex slaves, And so that was outrageous. I mean, completely angry about it. We have to do something about it. So through our work with Mocha Club, we started supporting a local run ministry that rehabilitated women out of the commercial sex industry for like a 6-month period, gave them health care. 75% of them were HIV positive, gave them child care, job training, et cetera, et cetera.
And those are people that were already there doing the work.
They were already there doing the work. We just wanted to figure out how to support them.
Wow.
But the biggest challenge that came to me was the woman that ran it, Cherry, said, look, our biggest challenge is finding employment for the women after they leave this. And in fact, when you sat down with the women, 2 things became really, really, really clear. One is they would say, look, we're able-bodied. We're thankful for the charity, but we need a job.
Right.
Or we're going right back to the streets.
Right.
And the other thing that you would understand by spending time with the women and hearing their stories, I think, honestly, just as a dumb male, I believed that women that had gotten into the commercial sex industry or prostitution, probably made some bad choices with their life.
Right.
But hey, I understand, and we want to help you. That was my very American mindset.
Right.
And all of a sudden you start hearing their stories. You meet one woman that went into the commercial sex industry to save her sister from breast cancer.
Jeez.
You hear women's stories about their children, and all of a sudden you realize not only were these not bad choices, these were heroic women making choices that I would never even have to conceive making.
Right.
I no matter what would happen in my life, I would always fall back on the biggest bed of feathers every single time.
You fall back on a feather on a bed of like multiple opportunities.
Right. Exactly. Choices. And people that would be surrounding me. And so that was like seminal moment number 1, really saying I want to help fight with these women. We got to figure out a way to create jobs for them.
Yeah.
Jeez Louise.
And so we asked a few of the women, Bezawayu, Mesala, and Mulu, what do you want to do? They all said, we want to do something. What do you want to do? They said, we want to make scarves. So
and these are women who are in that
program.
profession.
Yeah. And we want to learn to make scarves because scarf weaving is it's like Queen of Sheba times in Ethiopia. And they make it on these ancient looms. And
it's so great that you didn't come in with your idea.
Yeah.
Like it's so great that you aren't just like treating the symptoms, which is so tempting to do a lot of like charity work. You know, you just want to short-term help. That you recognize that like this is really about economic opportunity. Like that's what we need. But also that you weren't like, oh, I know what we can do. I mean, I used to drive a Lexus. I know what we can do here.
Right.
But you asked them, what do you guys want to do?
Yeah, if they would have said...
They started the whole idea.
Yeah, if they would have said we want to make coffee cups, we'd be a coffee cup company today.
Yeah.
You know, one of the things, small aside, that was one of the most powerful... I mean, there were a million things that were powerful about going on those trips with y'all to Africa. But I'll never forget, Larry, we had gotten there for that first trip.
I thought you were going to say Matt Ward's taking a dump in the Masai Mara.
That it was powerful in a different way.
It was.
There's a lot of stories there. The fact that he turned a coward, this is my favorite part of the story. This is one of my favorite things about Matt in general, is his sense of wherewithal is insane. And he literally turned coward. He had the guy pull over the Jeep in the middle of the Masai Mara. Dude is standing out with his gun because it is wide open plains.
Yeah.
And lions could be anywhere in this high grass. And he's like, I don't think this is a good idea. And Matt's like, what's going to happen in the Jeep or in somewhere else? And he said, okay. So he turns to Cowart and says, I know this is going to be funny later. She should probably get some pictures of this. And walks out and dude is standing with his gun, looking at this, this
across the Mara. We're all scouting.
Oh my God.
Matt's like, look, social media is taking off. It's going to be around
someday.
For good.
This is
going to
be
pictures of this.
So the thing that I think was so powerful, I've taken this with me. It is one of the most, and you did such a good job, sort of, because I remember we talked about this so much after I heard Larry talk about it. But a bunch of kids from Belmont were there. This is on our very first trip, and we were kind of hanging, and you're like, you should go hang and just kind of listen to Larry talk to these kids, because it was at one of the places we stayed, just kind of out in like their little hang area, outside. And one of the things that he said was, this is one of the things that we get really wrong about these kind of trips. It's like, you guys are going to want to come here and feel good and feel productive. So what you're going to do is you're going to do all these jobs because you see a need, and then you just kind of step in and do it, and you do it. He's like, but let me tell you what happens in that moment. You guys will build a building, right, in your American way. And when you leave, it probably won't work, because that's not how Africa builds buildings. So not only will it not work when you leave, but if you take the time to look around you while you're building that building, you'll see 30 African men sitting there watching you build the building, who could be doing the work and getting paid for building a building that will actually work.
Right.
Yeah. And that was a absolute ideological shift for me, because his point was, and what you guys' work has been ever since, and it's what John is bringing up, that you sat with them and you said, you guys know your lives, you know your culture. We're here to help you. What do you need help with? And then they tell you. You don't go, hey, let me tell you what we see you need help with.
And to both of y'all's point, it is, man, you got to really work to strip down the fact that because you were born into relative wealth and that you have money, there's just an assumption that I know more than the next guy.
That's right.
I mean, the smarter, the more wealthy that people get in the United States. I always find, all of a sudden you have an exit with a big company. You don't know just about the company that you sold, the book publishing company you sold. You now know everything about everything.
Right.
And to your point, that's how we go over there. I've had to work to deconstruct that for a long time.
It is, but and that's your point. That's I think the most potent takeaway for me was exactly what you just said, was this realization that this really isn't, I mean, this is like the first thing they say on any mission trip or any trip like that is, it's not about you. But you go, okay, sure. But then you're out there working, you're like, I feel great. In that moment, it's still about you. And I think like what we had to realize, and what you guys did such a good job on those trips with, and it's how you do your work still, is we really are here to serve. Like really serve, not just serve ourselves and go home and feel good because you got pictures of a house you built and the kids standing in the house and you feel good because you did a thing. It's that's not actually serving anybody well. And I think I learned that lesson every time that I went with y'all on those trips. Was like, they weren't work trips, which in a weird way was kind of frustrating, because you wanted to feel something. You wanted to go, and I'll never forget, every time you'd sit with us before the trip and you go, hey, let me tell you what we're going to do. We're going to go sit with people. We're going to meet people.
Because it's not about what you accomplish on this trip. It's about what you accomplish after
right.
it. Yeah.
And
but you're like, but I'm the hero of the story.
That's exactly right.
How am I going to
That's exactly right. Moment? But I think those were life-changing trips for me, because I think they really reshaped how I think about relief work, about genuinely serving people, not serving myself, serving people. But really, I think those trips were so confusing in wonderful ways, because we would literally go sit with people and listen, ask a ton of questions. We wouldn't do anything. We just kind of sit. Okay, that's wow.
Let's see what bubbles out of that.
Yeah, and then we'd come back home, and then that's when the work began, like you said. And how do we help them?
Mocha Club began.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's to your point. There is so much work. There's so much discipline you have to do as a person, as an American, especially a white American, going over there, going like,
I can solve some problems.
Yeah, boy. Let me tell you what I'm scoping here, folks.
Yeah, I got some ideas for you.
I got some ideas.
Yeah, and the last note I would say about that is, charity is important.
Yeah.
The challenge is having lived over there is you see that charity often goes too far, whereas the intention of charity should be able to help people get off the ground, so to speak, to get out of destitution. It should at some point convert to now equipping.
Yeah, right.
There's just not a lot of kind of those minds involved in development work.
Yeah.
It's most people that go over are in that charity side. And the more you talk to people, the community engagement element that you're talking about, 99% of them are like, hey, I just need a job.
Yeah.
I'm able-bodied.
Yeah,
I got,
right.
I can do this.
I have skills and everything. That was the thing that I think is, I look at that and I'm like, it's just so much more work. Like equipping people is actual real work. It's not relief work. It's not you go in for a season, you come home. It's like
it's a different energy.
It's a different business. It's a different industry. You're really committed to it. You're staying there. You have probably people that live there if you don't yourself live there to help facilitate the work. And so it's a very different thing. And
we were fortunate to have, great friends that we had made that were Ethiopian that ran the work. So when we came back and couldn't live there any longer, we had, for example, for tuna, start a leather factory and started employing, within a year, was employing 60 women, all making a living wage. So, yeah, it grew pretty quickly early on.
And so how did Able get to where it is now?
It's all you.
Well, I don't. Geez, that was fast, but I'm not going to push back on that. I'm not.
When it was around a time. So Tom's Shoes had opened this wide berth for people thinking about their purchase having an impact. And, Tom's and Blake will admit now there's things they could have done differently. We all can. But what they did do is create a really wide door for everybody to walk through that wanted to sell something that could be doing good. Their model was the charitable side, which is you buy something, we'll give something away in charity. Our model that I think people started resonating was born out of a simple philosophy that if you're going to be serious about solutions to poverty, you have to create jobs and you have to do it for women. Mm-hmm. That is a socially, scientifically proven fact that women invest more in their families and their communities than do men. And so knowing that was us being serious and that was our approach. And in that concept of creating jobs, people started getting on board. So we made scarves and then made a leather bag. And then all of a sudden, Jessica Alba was wearing it. Julianne Hough posted it.
Annie Barnes.
Drew Barrymore, Annie Barnes.
Yeah.
Did I mention Annie Barnes was wearing it? Who else? I mean, Olivia Wilde, Kristen Bell put it in People magazine.
Jeez.
And so that's really what got us launched is a group of women that just said they passed them around, And so there's that podcast that what's it called? How I Built This, where they always ask the question of do you feel like it was luck or skill, And I think it's different for everybody. I think a lot of people had some really strategic plans and they lived them out. And some people like it's lucky. Mine would so easily be luck. There was no strategy or plan to get it in those hands. It just did.
Johnny
and Dave.
That was. Oh, I like that.
Hey, Dave.
Yes.
Hang on.
Oh.
Do you smell that?
I do. I smell a couple things. One, with the rock is cooking, and two, also the sweet smell of charred meat.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. Dave, what is your favorite thing to grill?
Now, people ask me this all the time.
All the time.
And I can't walk down 12 South without somebody, Dave, good to meet you. What do you like to grill? And people wouldn't know this from what I wear because I'm kind of a regal dresser and a man of
regal
enunciated verbiage. and impressive verbiage, but I'm actually a simple grill man. I go for a classic burger or ribeye or, just I keep it simple, John.
Simple, yeah. Well, listen, this summer, Dave, why don't you add some power players to your grilling lineup with Butcher Box, okay?
Okay.
Butcher Box is the subscription service that delivers high-quality meat and seafood right to your doorstep.
Don't tell me that.
They don't deliver it anywhere else, just right to your doorstep.
It makes it so much easier when they do that. Choose from a carefully curated selection of 100% grass-fed beef, free-range organic chicken, wild-caught seafood, and more. And right now, John, new subscribers can receive a free grilling bundle in their first order.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Every month, Butcher Box ships a curated selection of high-quality meat right to your home, your doorstep. Again, I want to reiterate that. It's going to be at the doorstep.
You don't have to go looking around the neighborhood for it.
It's not in the side yard. Plus, there's free shipping for the continental United States.
Oh, man. It's a
like
company
too good to be true.
They just give and give and give.
Yep.
So each box is packed fresh and shipped frozen for your convenience, so you can save time on your next grocery store trip. You can customize your own box with one of theirs, because they don't care. It's like art, but meat art. Can we buy that domain? Either way, you get exactly what you want.
That's right. Get summer sizzling started with this special Butcher Box deal for our listeners.
Yep.
Free bacon for the life of your membership. Plus, I'm not done. $10 off.
What? No.
I know.
You really mean that?
I do, and they do.
Oh, gosh. Sign up today at butcherbox.com/Dadville and use code Dadville to get 1 pack of free bacon in every box for the life of your membership. Plus $10 off your first order.
That's butcherbox.com/Dadville and use the code Dadville to claim this amazing deal.
Get off your buns and do it. Pun intended. Such a cool part of that story, though, that women who had been working, using their bodies in ways that they didn't want to make either provide money for someone else, their kids, themselves, whatever, are making bags that are so well made that women in America who are celebrities are going, I don't just love this bag, it's a cool story. Like, I just love this bag.
Yeah, they just love this bag.
Right.
You know what I mean?
It was a really cool bag.
So your proof of concept is amazing because you're going to people going, hey, again, this is our story, folks. Like women know how to do this.
My proof of concept. We'll go to Amber Lehman now, our friend Amber Lehman, who's a stylist. And my proof of concept was like, Amber, there's these scarves. Okay, now let's start doing these beaded necklaces. Do you remember those paper beaded necklaces?
Yes.
I'm like, Amber, everybody is doing them. They are selling like crazy. They're colorful. They have multiple colors. Even some beads have multiple colors.
Wow.
And she just looked at me with that Amber Lehman strength and said, Barrett, we are not doing this. And I am a good enough listener. If I do anything well is listening to my smart friends.
But that's the thing. That, like you say, was it skill or was it luck? It was luck. But I'm like, well, no. It was... Yeah. The integral ingredient is I don't know what we call it, is like security, listening, lack of ego. I mean, that was the integral ingredient in all of this. It's like from the very beginning, when you asked those couple women in Ethiopia, what would you guys want to do? And they were like, scarves, because it has ancient history, all this stuff that you wouldn't know, like. It's just a series of letting that lead the decision making, like taking yourself, being secure enough to let other people who should be making the decisions, make the decisions, all that kind of stuff.
Which also maybe aided. I mean, first of all, I do want to affirm my humility is amazing. But
it's really remarkable.
But
that's the title of the podcast.
It's somewhat of a joke, but serious too. Is I knew nothing of fashion. You guys know I don't know how to dress myself, and that Rachel does that every morning.
I do want to say, and I'm lucky enough to hang out with Barrett Ward multiple times every week. I can't remember the last time you weren't wearing those shorts.
These Viore shorts?
Yeah.
I just wear them when I'm around you.
And
I know
you look
love
great.
My Viore shorts.
You look great.
Yeah.
You do look great.
Yeah.
Do I get a affiliate fee off of that?
Well, yeah, we'll see.
We'll see. Probably not.
We'll see.
Go ahead.
Probably not going to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is our podcast.
But it is that. It's
the
that
point
spirit of that has been able to, let Able flourish because you're not trying to make it something.
Well, too, I think the thing that's I think is so remarkable is that you are so. I mean, I know you did the y'all did your push with show your wages, right?
Yeah. Oh yes, I really wanted to talk about that.
But like one of the things that's so cool about that is you have been so consistent to your goal. Like you not just have women that you are helping get out of these scenarios. Now in the States, you're doing this with women that work here in the at Able here in Nashville. Mm-hmm. But I mean, what percentage of your staff is women? It's almost 90-something%.
It's like you and then all the women.
Yeah.
So I think the only guy right now.
And our staff at Able, we're probably about 97%.
That's
women.
what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So I think what's so cool about what you're doing is it's not just a concept that you're going like, hey, let me sort of pitch this idea of like we're empowering women to do. It's like you lift the lid on your work, and it's like, oh yeah, no, it's happening.
Well, and I'll say this, with that statistic, the truth of it is, we live in Nashville, Tennessee, and the most qualified person every single time to do the work at Able has been a woman. It's not been an intention of hiring women over men. The truth of it is the mission of it. It is also a women's fashion company. Attracted that kind of top tier talent all around from the country, or all over the country, I should say. And for me personally, like I said, I don't know anything about fashion. If I didn't start it, my only job security at Able is that I started it. Other words, I would never be able to get a job there.
I feel the same at Dave Barnes Rocks and Corporate.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Will you talk about Publish Your Wages a little bit? Because when you guys did this a couple years ago, I remember thinking, and I said this to you, I know, like, and I truly mean this. Like, I was like, one of my really good friends is doing something that's like changing the world. You're doing something.
Thank you so much.
And then now to get to Barrett.
Back to Barrett. This is his podcast.
Yeah, sorry. It's just what you're doing in the space.
Thank you. That bridge, key change in that bridge.
I know. Powerful.
I know. Thank you.
It's powerful. It's like a beaded necklace.
Colorful beaded.
But yeah, I just want you to talk about it because like give a little context of like what the fashion industry as a whole, the culture of it, and then how you guys like really went against that.
Which I have to say, the irony to me that you are doing fashion with the point of your business to be empowering women, and yet it's in fashion, which is maybe the most.
Yeah, right. There is an
It's
irony
really
there.
Interesting.
Yeah, it is. As we started growing as a company, we started to see we could actually have some influence on this space. And probably one of the biggest instigators was watching a film called True Cost on Netflix. It's still there, I'm pretty sure. I probably watched that in about 2016. And you start finding out things about the worldwide fashion industry. So we were basically only employing women through our work in Ethiopia and our work here in Nashville. So we work with women that have also come overcome extraordinary circumstances in Nashville to make our jewelry. And so when you start to learn about the global fashion industry, one of the most compelling statistics is that it is the largest industrial employer of women in the world. Estimates around 75 million women that make the clothes that all of us wear. Wow. But that only 2% of them earn a living wage, which basically means
2%
that 98% of the clothes we wear are made by people that cannot make ends meet. They work 2 jobs, 60, 70 hours a week, still trying to make, working 2-3 jobs even. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of unacceptable, right? Not even kind of unacceptable. It's completely unacceptable. And so,
which I did not know that.
Yeah.
Before being friends with you. And like, it now changes my perception of like when I find some shirt
that's a great deal.
$3.
Right.
I'm like, before I was like, sweet, that's a win.
If you're getting a great deal, they may not be.
Right.
So at the end of the day, the thought was, how do we change that? We can't. I think the frustration for me was, look, it's nice to run our own brand and have the impact that we're having on the people that work alongside us and our partners. But this is 75 million women in the world. This is an entire industry, and even really how manufacturing in the world is done with all things, right? It's that super cheap labor. That's why we outsourced all of it to the rest of the world.
Right.
It's because it was too expensive here. Excuse me. And so
we'll boost that.
Yeah. And so for me, I started talking to our publicist, and I said, look, I got an idea. What if we publish our lowest wages, not our average wages, because an average wage takes in people that are making plenty, so you don't have visibility to the lowest wage, to the lowest people on the totem pole and the most vulnerable. What if we published our lowest wages so that we could really challenge other brands to do the same thing? And he looked at me and said, what the hell is wrong with you? Mm-hmm. That's the dumbest idea I've ever heard. Mm-hmm. Are you trying to sink your ship? I said, man, I don't think so. I think our consumers are ready for that. I think consumers know this. With an age of social media exposure, they're starting to see that there's probably some stuff behind the curtain that they don't know that's not good, but they want to know. Yeah. And you know, the moment we published our wages that day, I didn't sleep that night. I was kind of worried that we might have sunk our ship. Yeah. But when we did it, you saw consumers reacting exactly how we expected. They were applauding. Because we weren't saying our entire supply chain is 100% living wage. That's not possible in its current status of manufacturing, but we were working to get everybody there. Wow. We were showing our consumers the pathway to get there, and we were saying, let's lead the way and be exposed. And I think, you know, to your point, Dave, that the roots of all that are in the fact that we were a nonprofit. We didn't start this thing to make money in the first place. You know, in 2014, our lawyers told us that we had to become a for-profit because of the, you know that stuff, like unrelated business income tax. You're familiar with that, Dave? But
you're always talking about that.
But so that we had to become a for-profit, which to me, as you guys both know my story well, landed me in a very stressed situation in 2014 of playing tennis with you and saying, how do you keep your sanity when things aren't going well? And you know, spending most of that year in fetal position on the bathroom floor. Yeah. But eventually leveled out, you know, got some good therapy, maybe even a little Lexapro in there for a period of time.
Hey, Lexus Barrett, you know what I'm saying?
Lexapro. To just kind of help me get through that season that was really hard for me. And then we came out of it. And man, I don't even remember why I started telling that story. Oh, just to say, in that 2014 period, there was just 3 of us trying to figure it out. But in becoming a for-profit, that was a massive paradigm shift for me because I kind of was in the space of only think you could do good if you're in the nonprofit space.
Wow. Yeah.
And then within 4 years, we had 100 employees at Able.
Jeez.
And so that for-profit mindset allowed us to scale but still maintain our impact. And I can tell you this. It doesn't matter if you are nonprofit or for-profit. It matters what type of human you are, where your integrity is, and how you're going to run whatever you're doing. Yeah. Because you can always do it all to the glory of yourself or not. Right. Yeah.
So a question I have you have 4 daughters. Your life is, I'm sitting here sort of giggling in my brain. You are literally a man island in a sea of women in your life. I mean,
you must be so uncomfortable being in a room with such masculine
I was going to say a lot of energy in here.
I was about to say it is your lack of masculinity. It makes me feel very comfortable. That makes you feel comfortable.
Yeah.
Your massages, you guys both give great massages.
But like how does that inform with your daughters? You know, again, you are one man in a house of 4 other women. You're one of a couple of men in a 100-person women, run business.
Company,
yeah. So like, how does that inform how you think about your daughters, how you relate to them, your sort of wants and hopes for them? Like, how does that sort of translate into your family?
I mean, first of all, at a very simple level, I love that they come and visit Able. I love that they spend time with the women. I love that it gives them a vision for what they can do with their lives, you know? Yeah. But I think just like any of us, as a recovering workaholic, I shouldn't say any of us, but for me, as a recovering workaholic and moneyholic and the wrong pursuits, I feel pretty strongly that I don't want them to think that work is where all their fulfillment will come from. Mm-hmm. And I see that a lot. I see young people come to me and say, man, it must be so fulfilling to do your work. I'm like, some days it's mostly it's just work, and And I enjoy it because I enjoy the people that I work with.
Yeah.
But it's not like every day I get a story from around the world that's changing. And even if I did, those disconnected stories, if that gave you all this pride and quote unquote joy, it probably isn't balanced, right? Because the real balance is in our daily relationships, our relationships with our spouses and children. How are all those things going? That's where my real... So when people ask me about fulfillment in work, I'm like, I reserve most of that word for my family. And I do have moments of joy in my business. And I do. Just 2 weeks ago, we had a woman had her year anniversary and told me her story for the first time, that she came to Able after having been in prison, found out she was pregnant in prison. Her 2 children, and they with twins, they got taken to foster care. She said she got out of prison, went through rehabilitation, and got a job with Able.
Jeez,
and she was able to get all of her children back, right? So those moments are extraordinary, but it's not like moment-by-moment fulfillment. Right?
Yeah, you don't have an employee coming in every hour going, next story, and you're right. Like, yes.
Exactly.
John.
Oh, sorry.
John.
You're done. Go ahead.
John.
Hey, Dave.
Yeah.
No, I'm just responding to you.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah,
Okay.
go ahead.
Can I tell you something?
Please.
Okay. As dads, we know it can be hard to have a meaningful moment in the home.
Oh, my goodness.
That.
Well, in particular, let me just say, let me one-up you.
Okay.
We know it can be hard to pull everyone together on the weekend, not to mention for a Sabbath practice.
And I don't want to do this, but I'm going to one-up you one more time. That's why we really like this new resource called Sabbath
Box.
Yep. It helps you, I said it first, it helps you stop and enjoy God with each other.
Now, as a dad/parent, which is how I refer to myself all the time, especially in public, having something tangible is key to reminding us each week to stop and have a meaningful moment with our family. And the Sabbath box is just that, Dave.
I'm gonna keep one up on you. I don't mean
Please.
to. But the box is durable enough for the kids to interact with. You don't have to worry about that. But the best part is that it makes us stop each week and spend some intentional time together.
That's great. Now, here's the way it works. Okay. The box sits on a shelf or it can hang on the wall.
Yep.
It's versatile.
Yep.
Right? All week long, it says create and cultivate, reminding us of the good of work. Then, on the day that you've decided to stop and enjoy each other, you flip the box top over, and it says stop and enjoy.
Oh, I love that. The box comes with a 5-week guide to teach you about Sabbath, and it includes prayers and scripture you can read. It's all right there.
So if you've ever wanted to start a Sabbath, but you haven't, Sabbath box is for you.
Yeah.
And if you have a Sabbath practice, but you want to increase the intentionality or take it to the next level, one-up it, you might say, the Sabbath box helps you do just that.
We love it. You should go get it. Visit goodkind.shop and use the code DADVILLE at checkout for 20% off a Sabbath box.
That's goodkind.shop and use the code DADVILLE at checkout for 20% off a Sabbath box. Well, I will say that you are a great example to me, which is it's helpful to me in my life to kind of like as someone who I'm looking to remind me to keep that balance. Because I don't know anyone who is more easily able, seemingly on the outside, easily able to just switch off work and immediately go into like home, dad, husband life than you.
Yeah,
there's no part of you seemingly on the outside who wants to hang on to work when you walk through the front door. You are just like, you are done with work and you are like fully dad mode when you get home. That is a really hard thing to do.
I appreciate that. And what you see on the outside is exactly the same as what's on the inside. You nailed it. You got it. Now, I the truth of it is it's been a discipline that I've wanted to develop over the years.
Yeah.
One of the key, it sounds so small, but one of the key things that I'm reminded of that I started doing early on when I had kids is if they came in the room, if I was working on something, shut it. If it was my computer, I never wanted to say to my child, let me just finish this email. Let me just do this.
Can we just talk about just that for a second? So I have, my little writer's shed in the backyard, right? And you're my inspiration for this. I mean, you both are great at this. Like, I want to lock that door a lot. Like when they're out there.
I don't want to put out there that it's unreasonable to.
But it's a great goal to aspire to.
It's a great goal to aspire to.
I want my kids to be like in their first year at college, talking to their new roommates and talking about their dad and being like, yeah, that door was always open.
Yeah.
Always. And we would always go in there.
And if it wasn't, we would get the window and we would just
knock, break the window. But I'm like, that is so tough. Because when you're working on something and you're like, they just came in and I want to talk about school. I want to do all that, but it's just so hard to shut down what I'm working on.
Because the driver for me in that moment is if I really intellectually process what I'm working on that I want to tell them to wait for me on, 99 times out of 100, it is completely unimportant what I'm doing. Right. It is not urgent.
But it's tough to recognize that and remember that in real time.
Yeah.
Because I think in those moments, well, like that's the micro. The macro is, I mean, yeah, sure. There are some times where like if I'm cutting a vocal or something like that, I might need to just finish that up right now. I've warmed, whatever. But overall, it's like, what do am I needing to get what I need from work or from my family? And I feel like you're a great example. You both are again of like, but focusing mainly at Barrett's in the first place, of getting that from your family.
Yeah. And I just don't find, and again, I think the real easy thing to do is kind of debate it and go, yeah, but there's times where you got to do this, this, and this. Okay, that's fine. But here's what I've learned practically, that for myself, when I do that, I never am worried about what I didn't finish.
Right.
And
it's not going to let you down.
It's not going to let me down. And I always feel really centered. It's kind of another discipline like that is playing Barbies. So as you mentioned, I have 4 daughters. And playing Barbies is not anything that I inherently enjoy. It is actually amazing to watch what they're doing.
What if they had like little Able backpacks, though? Would that change it?
That would. Let's work on that. So I'll do that. And so this kind of is a cheesy thought, but so I try to picture like Heavenly Father relationship to me and his interest in me and mine and my children. And how do those look? Mm-hmm. So in that moment, if it's not interesting to me, but I can take joy in it, but like real and genuine joy in playing with them, that feels kind of similar, because I doubt, like, if I'm God for a second looking down at Barrett, I don't think God's thinking, man, what he's doing is so fascinating to me. I have never thought of what he's doing. But instead he's like, no, he's looking over at the Holy Spirit going, nah, I created that. I've seen that done like 1 billion times.
Right.
But I still love pleasuring in watching Barrett do it.
Right.
Because it's Barrett doing it and I love him. And so if I can kind of resemble that with my children, where I really get to a place where I am enjoying playing Barbie with them, which girls, I do love it if you're listening to this.
Yeah.
That to me is getting centered. So I'm just looking for those little moments that I can kind of use as a barometer.
Yeah, like knock you back into
to knock me back into the center a little bit.
Yeah.
That is so, I'm telling you that I don't know if there's anything, I have to think about this. It is on my top 3 hardest things to do as a parent, is playing things with them. Because this is a little bit of the Enneagram world, but like the 7 in me, like I do not like being trapped. I don't like feeling like I'm in a moment that I don't enjoy and I can't get out of it. Mm-hmm. And man, like when it's like, will you play Barbies for 30 minutes? I'm like, oh my gosh.
Well, but the funny thing is,
oh my gosh, here we go.
It never lasts 30 minutes.
They
don't have that. But I try to tell myself, like, okay, whatever it is, because if one of my daughters says the phrase like, Daddy, will you play with me? I mean, yes, I'm going to. How can I say no to that?
Right.
Do I want to do whatever activity it is that we're going to do? Probably not. Like you're saying, like I wouldn't do this on my own, so I'm not going to do. Also, I'm never going to get it right. They're very micromanagerial with their playing. I'm never holding the thing right. They're giving me my lines. I'm not saying it right. But I tell myself, I'm like, all right, just 10 minutes. Just do 10 minutes. And then if that turns into 20 minutes.
No, that's
fine.
exactly right.
But it'll probably be after like 7 minutes. They'll move on to something else or whatever.
That's right.
But I have that mentality too. Like I don't want to be
tough.
trapped.
That is really hard.
Or one other barometer is how often I'm saying, "Daddy, can I play with you?" Yes. First, here's my phone. When I'm saying that, I have fully fallen off the wagon, and
Daddy's going to set a timer for 45 minutes. Okay, when this goes off. Yeah.
Then start watching TV, please.
Yeah. So have you found with the girls, because your girls are far in like age-wise, you have
18, 11, 9, 6.
Do you find that with the younger two, because there's the well, really especially with the youngest, that you're like, I'm actually employing things I've learned with the older ones to my younger ones? Do you find like you're like, I learned some things, or is it just different with all of them?
I'm sure my eldest Howie would tell you that I've been crushing it from day one.
Define crushing it.
Like destroying. Not doing well. Yeah, I mean, certainly it's a learning process, right? But that's like anything else.
Do you find that with the girls though? Because
I think the biggest thing is not what you're getting wrong. What's that saying from Insight or something like that, where he says it's not the tear, it's the repair.
It's not the rip,
yes.
Yeah, it is. That's what it's all about. It's not even as much what am I learning to employ with the next child. That's just going to happen naturally on anything. But it's moreover, am I going right after the repair?
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's that's a good word. I can't imagine a house full of that many girls. I mean, it
best.
I imagine on the days where it's amazing, it's like the best thing ever. And then I have like these, like my eye starts twitching on days where it's a little off. It would feel like just like a circus.
Dude, I think it's the best. Like one of my favorite moments is I was taking Lena. I take the girls to school every morning. I was taking Lena and Marion to Waverly Belmont. And Lena was struggling with focus. I start to laugh because you guys know Lena. So she was struggling with focus in class, and all of a sudden she had her teacher report back to me that she had a great day. She just really paid attention and was listening well. And so I turned back to Lena, who at that point was probably 8, and Marion was 6. And I said to Lena, honey, I just wanted to say the teacher told me about how great of a job you did focusing in class yesterday, and I'm just so proud of you. And this is what it's like to have girls. Marion, I'm looking in the rearview mirror. Marion turns to Lena and says, Lena, I love you. I am so proud of you.
You are about to wreck because you're crying so hard.
Right into the pole. But, yeah, I mean, that is the joy of it. Like, watching they love each other so well.
And I wish all the listeners right now could know all your daughters. Like, could know Marion and Lena and their personalities right now. I can totally
Because that is the thing about the Ward house is you're not talking about 4 girls who are kind of like, like, oh, they're just little iterations of each other. It is very different personalities.
Yeah, you're right.
And strong personalities.
You're right.
So I mean, you guys have such a such a fun way of dealing. It's like, again, they're not sort of like, oh, this is how the Ward girls are. It's like there's a flavor forever. Yeah.
Have you thought about like filming it, having your own show kind of thing?
Oh my gosh, I've posted 16 times on Instagram.
That's 16? Impressive.
That's almost 17
So I'm on my
times.
way to a TV show, right?
Yeah.
That's what they're looking for.
They'll be calling it.
I've developed a brand.
Yeah.
It's a short TV show.
Yeah.
Okay, so we always ask at the end of the show 2 questions. So buckle up. First question is, what is the first question? Do I want to?
What do you love your children?
You want me to ask the first? I'll ask the first question. What do you want your kid? What's the one thing you want your daughters to know?
There we go.
What is the one thing you want your daughters to know? I think that I lived, I talked about what my story up into that kind of cataclysmic 30-year-old faith moment. I was trying to live a life that was, I could be loved or despite the things that weren't good about me. And I just want my daughters to know that they are loved regardless, of any mistakes they make, or that they don't see reactions out of me of condemnation for the things that are just life. That's a hard goal to hit, but that's what I want them to feel, is that they are loved regardless.
Yeah.
Okay, second question.
Is that the best?
That's the right answer.
Okay, perfect. Yeah.
Good.
We had a different answer for you, but that one works.
Go ahead.
We'll take it.
I'm a good listener.
We can feed it.
Tell
we
me.
can feed. Second question: what do you want your girls to say at your funeral?
Wow, at my funeral,
60 years from now,
that Dad was able to grow another 6 inches before he died.
We had never seen him before, but just in his 80s, he really had a growth spurt.
Really had a growth spurt. I hope that they say that they really, number one, enjoyed their childhood. Number two, that we were friends, that we had such an open relationship. And I'm really thankful that I do have the seedlings of that happening with their youth. I mean, I'm talking about periods. I'm talking about all those things.
Yeah.
And I love that. So I hope that they feel like that I was a friend that they could count on for all things. So that's probably it. What about you guys? What's your answer?
Oh, no. You can't do that.
No, this
Oh,
is,
yeah?
This
I
is
can't?
We don't do that here.
Podcast. We ask the questions.
See you guys.
Dead fish.